by me. As usual, you don't have to listen. It's up to you. Just follow the guidance you want to follow. Do any other meditation you want to do. As long as it is silent and still, you're welcome to do it. So we'll sit for an hour. Again, if you're not used, everyone, there's like kind of social pressure. Oh, sit on the floor and cross your legs. But if you're not used to doing that for an hour, you might want to sit in a chair. That is my number one advice for people who are not used to sitting still on the floor, cross-legged for an hour, because it's not a short amount of time. Other than that, when we're done with that, I will talk for a while, a giant public display of ignorance, and then when I'm done with that, you can, if you want to, raise your hand and we'll bring a microphone over. Well, the microphone I think is dead, but we'll figure out a way that you can report on anything you'd like to say about your experience, or you can ask me questions, and we'll do that for a while. And then at the very, very end, we'll do another 5 minutes of meditation, this time silent, right at the very end. So if you're there for silent meditation, you'll get a little tiny bit of it at the very end. Okay. So now's your chance to run from the room if you don't want to do any of that, or switch to a chair or whatever. Otherwise, you're in. So let's begin by doing a little bit of movement together. As usual, it's your body, so just move it the way you want to move it. Don't move it the way I'm moving it unless that looks like it feels good. If it doesn't feel good, do something else that does feel good. You're in charge of your own body. But what I will do is what we normally do, which is just begin by stretching way up and getting our rib cage wide open, and then breathing in and breathe out all the way, and then breathe in nice and deep. And then coming over this way, which for you guys is to the right, and opening up the side ribs there, get that really big, and breathe. If you want to, you can look at the floor, and then look up. But either way, just getting a lot of air in that side of the rib cage, and then coming up to center and going the other way. And then coming up to center and going down in front, opening up the back of your ribs as wide as you can, and breathing here. For some reason, this one is the one that really feels really good to me. Like really, really good. They all feel good, but this is extra nice. I think because of the way it stretches the muscles out the back of my pelvis. Then come on back up. And let's wiggle or circle our hands, and then wiggle and circle our elbows, and wiggle and circle our shoulders, and wiggle and circle our neck, and just do whatever you want to kind of loosen up and open up again. Make it work for you. You don't have to do it the way I'm doing it. You can wiggle a bit. Wiggling is good, right? And then for the veterans here, you know what we're going to do next? We're going to do Simhasana. So really give it your best one. That wasn't bad. We're going to have to do it again, though, to really lion out. Okay, very good. Shake. Shake, 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 shake. And then do some of this stuff one way, the hula hooping the other way. I remember, I'm so old, I remember when those were brand new. I was a little kid, and just do this for a minute, having it feel good, right? We're not trying to exercise, really. We're not trying to like get in shape or lose it. We just want it to feel nice and let your spine get let your spine remember that it's supposed to move. Like if you're sitting in a chair all day, your spine thinks it's supposed to be like a glass rod or something. And if you move, it's going to break. And so I want you to do circles with your spine so it remembers that it's supposed to be more like a young sapling, a super flexible, energized, prana-infused, happy sapling. Maybe in a nice cloud forest with a little breeze happening and a tree frog, let's say a poison dart frog or two up in it, right? Cool tree frogs, and just let your movement become smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Until eventually we come to a place where we can't actually quite tell whether we're still or moving just a tiny bit, right? So we're never locking ourselves into some kind of seated posture. You know how you've got those butterfly nuts and you get them tight and then you're like, that last turn where it locks it tight. We're not doing that. We're leaving it unlocked. So it's a little loose, a little open, a little supple, and we remember that our body is always moving. Okay? On the other hand, we're not doing yoga, we're not trying to stretch out, we're just, at this point, we're just finding this kind of stillness in our body, the kind of stillness that comes from being so relaxed, rather than the kind of stillness that comes from being so tight. So here we are in our nice, relaxed posture. And see if you can allow your any voluntary tension that's left in your face, like if you're kind of doing that or whatever, just release it. Allow your jaw to release so your upper and lower teeth aren't touching. And your cheeks to go just a little bit slack. So if there's any kind of fixed expression on your face from the day, just see if you can allow it to drain away. And do the thing with your voice box where the same thing you would do if you were lowering your voice, like you relax your voice box. So it just gets a little more open there, a little more relaxed. That might or might not be, but it might be an interesting hack for reducing mental chatter. So just keep that larynx relaxed. We tend to tighten it slightly when we sub-vocalize. And then allow your shoulders and arms and elbows and forearms and wrists and hands and fingers to just go limp. Limp like wet noodles, limp like wet dish rags, limp. And you can tell that you're doing it if you've got good sensory clarity, because your hands and fingers will get a little warmer and even a little plumper because the blood flow increases. When your face really relaxes, you can actually feel the same thing in your lips a little bit for the same reason. And then if you've got any tension in your upper chest or upper back that you can just release by just thinking release, let go there. And notice already how good it feels to feel relaxed. Remember, this isn't stretching time, it's just voluntary relaxation time. just feel how good that feels in your upper body to just be more relaxed, more open, more released. And then, if you know how to do it, allow your diaphragm muscle to relax. For some reason, a lot of us don't even know how to find that or how to relax it, but if you do know how to relax it, it sure feels good. And allow your belly to just flop out. We're not trying to impress anybody with our wonderfully flat belly or whatever. We're trying to just relax. So let it just be as open and loose and flopped out as it wants to be. And that same area in your lower back, like around your kidneys and sacrum area, just see if there's any voluntary tension there you can give a rest to. And then, just like you did with your arms and hands, allow your hips and thighs to release, your knees and calves to let go, your ankles and feet and toes to release, and the whole legs, all the way from the hips down to the toes, just become absolutely limp. And so now just noticing your entire body, feeling how good it feels to just let go, to release some tension, to settle in. If it's making you tired to relax and sit still, then sit up just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit straighter and maybe open your eyes. Otherwise, you're just taking a nap. So we want to be real relaxed, but also awake. So if you're not used to sitting with your eyes open, and you don't really want them open, but you're getting real tired, just crack your eyelids just enough that a lot of light is coming in, but you're not necessarily looking at anything. And let's just feel this together for a couple minutes. Remember, we're staying very still, trying not to fidget or readjust ourselves over and over. To the best extent possible, we're staying real still. So relaxed, it's very hard to move still. Good. Now, as usual, I'd like to invite you to just take the entire machinery of thought and just set it aside. We're just taking all that thinking. We're not stopping it. We're not changing it. We're not trying to control it or anything. We're just setting it aside. So it's almost as if you're grabbing onto a food processor. You're just picking it up. You're leaving it plugged in, but you're taking it off to the side of the counter. So you're not working with it at all. So even though we're not trying to manipulate or change our thoughts in any way, we're just not currently engaging. They're just over there doing whatever they want to do. And instead, we are over here sitting in simple presence, feeling the body very gently with the lightest possible broad focus, feeling the breath, and just being naturally present. Disengaged from the machinery of thought. Noticing that in this natural presence, awareness is naturally quite broad. It's naturally much more open. So let's sit in this natural presence, open awareness, disengage from thought for a while. And if you find yourself re-engaging and re-engaging and re-engaging with thought, then just feel free to concentrate on the breath a little more. But in general, we're having the lightest touch possible. We're just sitting in really open presence and simply aware of the coming and going of the wave of breathing. So let's sit like that together for a little while here. There can be a real urge here to trip off into fantasy or to start planning or whatever, but that's engaging with thoughts. So we're just going to let those thoughts do their own thing, and we're going to come back to being present in the room, present in our body, present in right here in this open, aware moment. Good. Now, instead of simply noticing the rising and falling of the breath wave, notice the movement, the activity of breathing in the entire body. So still maintaining a totally normal breath. Don't make it bigger or stronger or something, but just with your normal breath. Feel your breathing in your chest and belly, in your throat and face, but also in your back, in your arms, your hands, your legs, your feet. Feel the breathing in the entire body. We're not visualizing or somehow trying to gin something up here. It's just a matter of being relaxed enough, motionless enough, and awake enough to just feel the breathing in all the different areas of the body. And you may begin to notice as you do this a real sense of energy in the body, or vibration, or buzzy tingliness, maybe all over, maybe just here and there. But as we focus on breathing in the whole body, we start to notice the energetic qualities, the impermanence qualities, the movement and change qualities of body sensation more and more. So we're not trying to make that stronger or amp it up. We're just noticing if it's there, and we're feeling that. Remaining unengaged with thought, just staying right here in the room, resting in natural presence, right? It's really easy. We're just present. And noticing this sense of breathing in the entire body, and maybe a sense of buzzy, tingly energy in all or some of the body. When I say body here, I include the face and head too, the whole body. And you may begin to notice that feeling the breath in the entire body like this begins to, again, bring on a sense of movement, change, buzzing, tingling, vibratory stuff in the body, especially in the surface of the body. And so you can start to get a sense that this boundary of our body is less solid than it was. The skin is a lot less like the body of a car, and a lot more like starting to open up and be porous and fluid, and have less and less of a clear definition. Now, we're not imagining this, and we're not trying to cultivated or somehow created. It's just something we can notice. And if that's not available for whatever reason, you're not noticing it, that's fine. Just keep feeling the breathing. But as we notice the body boundary becoming much less pronounced, much more open, much more fluid, much more like a gas than like some kind of solid object, you may also notice that the energy in the body becomes more available. Instead of just being on the surface, it's available in the center line of the body, and so on. It starts to raise up quite a bit. And the interesting thing here, when the energy starts to really flow in even the three-dimensional volume of the body, and even maybe in the central channel of the body, is not only does it get quite a bit stronger, but it's a lot less like meditating on breathing, and a lot more like you're in touch with some kind of, for lack of a better term, energy behind breathing. And energy behind the body, or underneath, or within. It's just a way of feeling. It's not trying to define how anything works. But you feel the energy flowing stronger and stronger through the whole body. And the sense of the body as an object dissolves and becomes more and more like a field of continuously changing sensation without any kind of separation. Again, if this is not your experience, that's fine. Just stay wherever you land and work there. Notice that. That's completely cool. But if you're tuning into all this energy in the body, you may begin to notice something really interesting happening, which is that really moving, changing, tingling zone of activity in the body begins to open up. because there's no border, and it becomes more and more permeable and more open and more open until you recognize that the entire body experience is just space. You can feel space, and that space within and the space without is not actually separate at all. It's just one big space. You can still, of course, feel the body perfectly well. We're not somehow trying to dissociate from sensation. You can feel all the sensation, but what you're noticing is that this mental imposition of a kind of boundary is just dropped, and that the space within and the space without is just one 3D vast openness. Where nothing sticks and nothing catches and nothing congeals and nothing tightens down. It's all moving and open and relaxed and spacious and wide awake. It's wide awake. Good. Now listen to the sounds of the room around you. In a very relaxed way. We're not going from sound to sound to sound. We're just wide open, listening to kind of everything at once. And allowing the sound to move through us, because we're just permeable, wide open space. Just allow the sound to move through your body in all directions without meeting any resistance, any impedance at all. Hearing everything acutely and at the same time not grabbing onto or constricting around or slowing down or getting stuck on any sound at all. It all flows through with no barrier. The sound is just vibratory, buzzy, tingly energy moving through space also. Good. Now, if you're ready for a little extra challenging aspect, let's notice what's going on over there in the machinery of thought, but not the content part, just the activity part. Again, we're noticing the energy of it, the revving of the mind engine, so to speak. For many of us, that will be mental talk and mental pictures, and you're noticing those coming and going. For others, especially because we've been meditating in the way we've been meditating, you might notice it more as a kind of body sensation, a kind of flow of thought activity that you can actually feel in your body. So we're still not engaging with the content, but we're very, very tuned into the activity of the mind, the activity of thinking, the hum of the equipment working. Just like you can sometimes feel your stomach digesting, you can feel your mind thinking. And I want you to be very aware of that while remaining wide open, boundaryless. Just notice that thought activity comes and goes. Thought activity comes and goes. It rises and falls. And see if you can be aware of this thought activity coming and going, rising and falling, speeding up and slowing down, without grabbing onto it at all. It's like if you have to help a hummingbird out of a house. You don't grab onto it, but you kind of cup it gently while it's still flapping. And just very gently move it out of the house, but you're still feeling all the wings, the wing flaps on your palm. You're very aware of that. But you're not grabbing on. Good. Now it's very easy to get caught there, so make sure you're relaxing each time if it gets caught. But if you're real tuned in, you can notice any tightening around this flow of thought activity and relax before you actually grab on. So that there's a kind of deep letting go in the core of the mind, a deep relaxing of the fist of attention on thinking, and instead it's just naturally flowing without any impedance and without any sticking. It's totally Velcro free. And when it's like that, we can notice that thought activity too is just a flow of buzzy, tingly energy, and also that it too opens up. It doesn't have a boundary. It's spacious, just like the body, just like all experience. It's just wide open. Utterly at ease, even while it's burbling along. So that there's no boundary, no separation between outside and inside, or thought and not thought. It's not that they're not different, it's that they're not separate. Good. Now, just let go of everything except notice if the mind grabs onto anything at all. Grabs onto a body sensation, relax and let go of it. Grabs onto a sound, relax and let go of it. Grabs onto a sight, relax and let go of it. Grabs onto any thought at all, relax and let go of it. So we're just kind of 99% just sitting here resting with this tiny, tiny, tiny bit of awareness whether our attention is tightening onto something. And if it is, we just relax that tension. That's it. If you notice yourself trying to meditate on something, relax, let go of that. If you notice yourself trying to place your mind in any special way, relax, let go of that. If you find yourself trying to fixate your gaze, just relax. Let go. Anytime you find attention crimping onto something, tightening onto something, locking onto something, Relax, let it go. Wide open and wide awake. Not latched on to anything. Okay, good. Let's end that there. Feel free to move and stretch, etc. Although many of you were fidgeting the entire time, so you probably feel fine. Never seen such a fidgety group. That's not true, but still. So, we talked a lot tonight about openness and non-separation. And it's something that's really, to me, really fascinating. We can think of a lot of things that seem to be quite separate. My insides are different and separate from the outside world, otherwise they would just fall out all over the place, right? My thoughts are different than that candle over there, otherwise, I wouldn't be able to think. And I think there can be a kind of a practical sort of, let's say, hard-nosed way of thinking about it that seems to subvert that way of working entirely. And that's reasonable. It's just wrong. It's reasonable and practical, but it's just wrong. Why? Because I'm not saying things aren't different, right? I'm saying they're not separate. And that makes, that little linguistic thing makes all the difference, right? Of course, the feeling in my body is different than the color of that floor, that lovely tawny bamboo colored floor, right? The feeling in my body is different than that. However, I don't see them as separate. Right? The experience is one experience. I'm feeling my body and seeing that color, and where's the separation? So it's important to recognize that even if everything is one big unified field, we're not saying it's one big lump of gray goo that's all the same. In fact, really, this kind of openness to non-separation allows us to really celebrate all the difference and all the variability and all the qualia and just the way that the color of the floor and the feeling in my leg are really interesting and different in all kinds of ways, while recognizing that they're not separate. And the sense we have of the separation of things is, it is practical, and but it is entirely mentally constructed. And, I could pretend that I understand physics well enough to try to get into an explanation of that, but it's not about that. That's not the way we're working. It's about experience. It's not about, are they really separate or really not separate, and can we prove that these atoms belong over here and not over there? Just throw all that out. That's, at least for this discussion, that's not what I'm talking about. Not even kind of. Why is that funny, Ariel? You're just cracking up over there. We're just not talking in that way at all. We're talking about experience and the fact that we tend to divide it up in our heads in a way that, again, seems to be helpful and reasonable, but actually causes a lot of difficulty. And it may sound abstract, but it's the difficulty of me versus you, or us versus them, or, the fight, the struggle, the problem is all about dividing things up like that and then facing them off against each other. And you can just directly recognize in your own experience that that is a way of thinking. That's a mental box that you've put stuff in. And sometimes it's useful, and sometimes it's practical, and sometimes it's just painful and causes suffering, and sometimes it even makes the problem worse. So we kind of lose something when we say, it's all one, or I'm one with everything, even though in a way that's very true. In another way, we lose something when we talk that way because it tends to erase all the vibrant, beautiful, unique really important differences with everything. All those beautiful, vibrant, shining, colorful differences matter. We don't want to lose that in our way of understanding. You know, it's all one makes it sound like all that goes away. And that's why we use this weird word. Instead of saying oneness, we'll say not two, non-dual. Because that's saying it's all, it's got unity, but it's also got this tremendous diversity, and it celebrates the diversity. And when you're in that mode, when you let all these internal mental blocks fall away, you'll start to notice that it feels really good. And that instead of it being some kind of checked out, dissociative fantasy that allows you to bypass all your emotions, etc., etc., that you're actually much, much more aware of what's occurring, because you're not needing to divide it all up or separate it or control it or try to grab onto it. You ever get a little kid around some water, especially like a creek or like the sink or anything like that? What's the first thing they do? I mean, you can't help it. You're going to start playing with the flow of the water, and you're going to, make a dam, and then you're going to make a, causeway around the dam, and then you're going to make rapids, and then you're going to put your hand in it, and then you're going to put your fingers in it, and you're going to change your hand this way and change. Like, we kind of have this natural urge to get in there and just mess with it. And there's something super fun about that. And at the same time, what if you couldn't stop? What if you had to mess with it? Because you forgot that you could just let it flow. You could just let the water flow and just hang out with it. Or be it. Anyway, that's what I feel like talking about tonight. The fact that we can just drop the barriers and allow everything that's flowing to actually flow, and to be kind of grandiose, to see it as it really is, right? Yata Buddha Dasana, to see things as they really are, rather than all chopped up in some kind of broken mirror fragment way. Just let it be what it is. And what's so fascinating is it's very open and very relaxed to do that. What you think is going to happen is that it's going to be like Lucille Ball at the chocolate factory, and that everything's going to happen too fast and you'll lose control. And it will, but instead it's like you just relax and open and just let stuff happen. Okay. Starting to launch into a whole second talk there, so I'll stop. Normally we hand around a microphone right now so that you guys can talk and the people on the internet can hear you. But that one is unusable tonight, so we're just going to have to deal with it. We'll be able to hear you fine in the room if you speak up. There are some ceiling mics, so, folks out in YouTube land might be able to hear you. Sorry if you can't hear the questions or comments or reports. But two things. Number one, obviously, this is being live streamed to the universe. The other thing is, we just meditated, so please be mindful of your speech. Maybe you want to be mindful of your speech all the time, but at least right now in a room full of people who just meditated, please, have a care. So if there's anything you want to report or talk about your experience, or you want to ask a question or critique my lecture, which was super fascinating and I think everyone loved, all of that is fine. So just raise your hand. Yep.
So,
Remember to speak up.
yeah, I would just like to know what your thoughts on how far this non-duality can go. For example, there's this distinction between, let's say, someone becoming, let's say, non-dual in the way he perceives the world, but then also having to purify, for example, all the parts of himself so that they also, let's say, are permeated by light. And I just want to ask if, let's say, one can ever become fully, let's say, non-dual across, let's say, all layers of the personality and so on.
Yeah, it's a super important question. So for me, I talk about this as having two axes. So there's the axis of awakening, just how much awake you can be. But there's also the axis, which is separate, it's related, but separate, of liberation, which is like how much awakeness is available under different situations. And we might even talk about that liberation thing as being more like what we think of in the West as like undoing all your negative conditioning, or healing all your trauma or whatever. So that instead of your awakening only being present when you're sitting on a cushion, it's present when you're walking around, it's present when you're having a conversation with your parent, it's present when you're, in a tense negotiation or something, right? That requires a lot more. You're calling it purification, which is kind of the very traditional way of thinking about it. We can also think about it as just untying the knots of psychology, right? Or untying the complexes or whatever. And so these two aspects of just the non-dual awakeness and the liberation, like just how much we can carry that around or live from that place is a better way to say it, under all conditions, eventually meet, and hopefully more and more and more we're kind of leaning into being able to live our awakeness in every different kind of moment. Okay? So it's really important that those two types of things are both at work in our practice. Okay? Does that answer your question?
In part,
What part is left over?
so I guess if it's the case that consciousness is already non-dual, and that
What is already non-dual?
let's say consciousness, whatever,
Mhm.
being,
Okay.
reality, whatever, then which, let's say, part is awakening to that? Let's say maybe in a gross sense. I guess I'm asking if it's actually ever like a binary thing, because let's say one becomes awakened, what is then the work actually? If the contraction is loosened, some other contraction is loosened in daily life, let's say, whatever, to function in daily life better.
Because awakening isn't something that sits there. In the next moment, is it still there? In the next moment after that, is it still there? Right? So in each moment, we have access to our own awakeness, more or less. And a lot of that is all about our reactivity and our conditioning and our psychology. Okay, so don't think of as awakening as something that you've got and now you've got it. It's always changing, right? Even though from the absolute view, there's just this total awakeness. But as long as we're going to talk about anything changing at all, then awakening, the awakeness, it's better to just say, how awake are you right in this moment, not have you ever been more awake, or, something like that. Okay, so we don't think of it as like, oh, I've achieved level 7.3. It's always there at 7.3. It's not like that. You're only as awake as you are right now. Okay? Okay, we'll leave it there. You're not satisfied, but we'll move on. Yes. Hi.
When you were prompting something, I had this moment of so I'm a very new baby meditator, and one of your prompts made me have this moment of oh, have I been doing the opposite of what I'm doing? Because you'd said something about being very aware that we're in the room and being aware of the room.
Yeah.
And my usual move when meditating feels like I'm very much pointing attention inward.
Sure.
Whether that's finding feelings in my body, paying attention to my breath, it's
Mm-hmm.
all
These are
there.
just different ways of working, right? They're just different techniques. They both work.
So were those words pointing at doing two fundamentally different things?
Yes.
Okay.
But that's like saying, I've learned to exercise, but you told me to lift weights, and I've been running. And so does the word exercise mean both of those things? Yes. Right? So meditation can mean more than this direction or that, right? So it's just different, just a different technique.
Okay, so then I'm going to translate this into something really tangible because it helps me understand. Imagine there's a tiny little LED light on that wall right there.
Uh-huh.
And it starts off purple and it turns yellow at some point.
Uh-huh.
In the meditation that you just had us do, when it switches from purple to yellow, should I pick that up more quickly and more vividly than if I was default sitting here? Or should I be somehow internally focused where the fact that the little light changed, I barely even realize it?
No, as you pointed out, I'm having you be aware of the room also.
And then for the other modality, I should be less aware that the light changed.
In that, if you go strongly in that direction, you wouldn't even know there was a light.
Okay.
It's just a different way of sitting.
What is language I can use in the future to figure out which one I'm in? Because they seem quite opposite.
Well, they are. We're just saying focusing inward versus focusing panoramically. Has to do with the direction of attention. But also, there's a lot more to it than that, but you just say the direction of attention. Okay? Yeah. Good question. Antonio?
Something that I noticed this time around, working with the mind, it was very vivid to see that the mind is a natural object. I think I really see what you mean by it. The metaphor of the hummingbird is just very, very on point. And it's also...
It's not a metaphor.
I know. Yeah. And if it's a natural object, then this is a theme in my practice lately. It's something that you've heard me. There's like we have a debt, there's some amends to be made in the sense of we've been cutting off something beautiful, and as if this creature called the mind is eager to show things and to show things and to show things, and every time it does that, we kind of that's what you want, and it's kind of terrible. When seen from that point of view, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. What does the teacher Shinzen Young always say? His teacher Sasaki Roshi always said something like, you won't need to make an object out of yourself or the world ever again. Right? So as soon as you do that thing of grabbing on, you're doing a thing of making yourself into an object also.
Yeah.
And so when we relax the hanging on of something with attention, we're relaxing being an object. It's terrible. Remember, I don't know if this commercial has been around. It used to be a public service announcement on TV, like back in the Triassic, I think, where it said, a mind is a terrible thing to waste, right? A mind is a terrible thing to waste. And it's Precambrian. Is that what you said? Yeah. Anyway, somehow that's related to what I want to say next, even though it won't sound related. But anyway, it's like making yourself into an object is a terrible thing to do, right? It's the worst thing you can do to yourself. And we do it continuously. So that thing you're saying about how grabbing something and turning it into something is kind of weird, kind of bad. It's the wrong word, but it doesn't feel good. You're doing it to yourself every time you do that also, right? So there's when we let things be, we let ourselves be at the same time. And that's a beautiful thing to allow to have happen. Okay. Thanks for your questions and for listening to what passes for an answer in this room. Now we're going to just sit silently. I wish it would be for about 45 minutes, or an hour, but it's going to be about 5 minutes. See, especially everyone who is super fidgeting, some of you could not stay still for literally more than 15 seconds. Let's see if we can just not move and find that pleasant. There's a lot of joy and beauty in just being able to just be relaxed. Okay. Very good. Thanks for coming out tonight. Let's see here. Feel free to help clear the cushions off over onto the shelf over there. Keep them nice and neat. And then also feel free to hang out in the foyer. There's chocolate. There's maybe some other snacks. There's interesting weirdos to talk to. So this is your community. This is the Alembic Sangha. Feel free to hang out and gab away. Thanks, everybody.